"I'm leaving," I said, setting down the champagne flute I'd been holding for the past hour. My girlfriend Amanda looked up from where she'd been laughing with her colleague Derek, her hand resting on his forearm. "What? Lucas, wait. I'm not waiting for anything. I'm done." I pulled my car keys from my pocket, the metal cold against my palm. "You're being dramatic," she said, finally removing her hand from Derek's arm. "It's just a party. You asked me to apologize to him, to the man you've been texting at midnight, to the man whose desk you visit 5 times a day. You wanted me to say sorry for existing in his space." I looked at her directly, my voice even. "So I'm apologizing to the only person who deserves it, myself, for staying this long." Her face flushed. Around us, her coworkers had gone quiet, their conversations trailing off into awkward silence. Derek shifted uncomfortably, suddenly very interested in his drink. "Lucas, please, not here. We can talk about this. At home." "There is no we anymore. Enjoy your promotion. Enjoy whatever this is." I gestured between her and Derek. "I'm out." I walked toward the exit of the hotel conference room, my footsteps steady on the polished floor. Behind me, I heard Amanda's voice rise, sharp with panic. "You're really going to embarrass me like this? At my promotion party?" I stopped, turned halfway. "You embarrassed yourself when you asked your boyfriend to apologize to your crush. I'm just refusing to be part of the joke anymore." The elevator doors opened, and I stepped inside. The last thing I saw before they closed was Amanda's face, pale and shocked, as her colleagues whispered around her. The drive home took 20 minutes. I spent them in silence. No music, no radio, just the hum of the engine and the occasional swish of passing cars. My mind was clear, clearer than it had been in months. The apartment we shared suddenly felt like a checkpoint rather than a destination. I'd moved in with Amanda 8 months ago. It seemed like the natural progression after 2 years of dating. She was ambitious, driven, always talking about her next career move. I admired that about her initially. I ran a small but successful digital marketing consultancy from home, which gave me flexibility, but also meant I was always available. Too available, apparently. The signs had been there for weeks, the way she'd light up when Derek's name appeared on her phone. The inside jokes I wasn't part of. The time she spent getting ready for work suddenly doubled. New perfume. New lingerie that I never saw her wear around me. When I'd asked about Derek last week, she'd laughed it off. "He's just a friend. You're being insecure." That word, insecure. She'd started using it a lot, like a weapon to make me doubt my own observations. Tonight had been the final confirmation. We'd arrived at her promotion party together. She'd been named Senior Marketing Director, a position she'd worked toward for 3 years. I was proud of her. I'd brought flowers, planned to take her to her favorite restaurant afterward. Then Derek arrived. The way she'd gravitated toward him, like a compass finding north. The way she'd introduced me, not as her boyfriend, but as Lucas. He does some marketing stuff too. The casual dismissal stung more than I'd expected. The final straw came an hour in. Derek had made some joke, I hadn't heard what. And I'd laughed at the wrong moment. Amanda had pulled me aside, her eyes hard. "Can you just try not to be weird around him? It's awkward." "Weird how? Like competitive or something? Just be cool, actually." She'd bitten her lip, a gesture I used to find cute. "Maybe just apologize for being kind of standoffish earlier. It would mean a lot to me. To us." That's when something inside me had gone still and quiet. Not angry, not hurt, just done. I packed that night. She came home around midnight, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. I was in the bedroom, folding my clothes into a suitcase. You're actually doing this? Her voice was different now. Smaller. Uncertain. I am. Over nothing? Over me asking you to be polite? Over you prioritizing his feelings over mine? Over you asking me to diminish myself for someone you clearly have feelings for? I placed my laptop in its case. Over you making me feel like I'm the problem for noticing what's happening. Nothing is happening with Derek. Maybe not physically, but emotionally? Amanda, you're already gone. You have been for weeks. She sat on the edge of the bed, tears starting to form. I love you. This is just... it's stress from the promotion. I'll do better. You asked your boyfriend to apologize to another man at your celebration dinner. Think about that. I zipped the suitcase. You don't love me. Maybe you did once, but right now you love the idea of having someone stable at home while you explore whatever this thing with Derek is. That's not fair. Fair? I looked at her directly. What's not fair is spending the last 3 months making me feel crazy for noticing what everyone at that party could see. Your coworkers looked at me with pity, Amanda. Pity. I carried my suitcase to the door. I'll be back next week for the rest of my things. I'll pay my half of next month's rent, then I'm off the lease. Where are you going? To my brother's. Then I'll figure it out. Lucas, please, can we just talk about this? We are talking about it. I'm just not negotiating anymore. I opened the door. Congratulations on your promotion. I genuinely mean that. But I won't be part of whatever comes next. My brother Evan lived across town in a 2-bedroom apartment he'd been trying to get me to take the second room of for months. About time, he said when I showed up with my suitcase. That relationship had an expiration date stamped on it 6 months ago. You could have told me. Would you have listened? He had a point. The first week was strange. I worked during the day, building campaigns for my clients, and tried not to think about Amanda. Tried not to wonder if she was with Derek. Tried not to check her social media. Evan made it easier by keeping me busy. We went to the gym at 6 every morning. I'd let my membership lapse while dating Amanda. She preferred sleeping in, and I'd adjusted my schedule to match hers. Now, pushing weights and running miles, I felt something returning to my body. Energy. Purpose. Anger that needed somewhere to go. Channel it into something productive, Evan said between sets. Best revenge is becoming someone she'd regret losing. I'm not doing this for revenge. No, but it helps to have a goal. By the second week, I'd moved most of my things out of Amanda's apartment. She wasn't there when I came by, probably intentional. Her roommate Jade was, though. For what it's worth, Jade said, helping me carry boxes. I told her she was being an idiot. Derek's not even that great. He talks about cryptocurrency constantly. I laughed, despite myself. Does she seem happy? She seems confused. She thought you'd fight for her more, I think. The whole dramatic comeback thing. I don't do dramatic comebacks. I just leave. Jade nodded approvingly. More guys should be like that. 3 weeks after the party, I got a text from Amanda. I miss you. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long moment, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Then I deleted it without responding. Evan saw me do it. Proud of you, man. It's harder than I thought it would be. It always is. But you're doing the right thing. The following month was transformative. Without the emotional drain of a dying relationship, I threw myself into work. I landed 3 major clients I'd been courting for months. I redesigned my business model, hired a part-time assistant, and increased my rates. The money started flowing in ways it hadn't before. My assistant, Rebecca was a recent business school graduate with sharp instincts and zero tolerance for clients who wasted time. She took over scheduling, invoicing, and initial consultations, freeing me up to focus on strategy and implementation. Within 6 weeks, we'd streamlined operations so efficiently that I was working fewer hours while making 30% more revenue. "You know what your problem was?" Rebecca said one afternoon, reviewing our quarterly numbers. "You were undervaluing yourself. These rates you were charging, they're insulting for the quality of work you deliver." I thought I was being competitive. "You were being a pushover. There's a difference." It was harsh, but she was right. I'd spent so long making myself smaller in my relationship that I'd carried that energy into my business. No more. I also started dating again. Nothing serious, just coffee and conversation. It felt good to talk to women who laughed at my jokes, who asked about my work with genuine interest, who didn't make me feel like I needed to shrink to make room for them. One woman, Kelly, a veterinarian I'd met at a friend's barbecue, was particularly straightforward. "You're different from most guys I meet through mutual friends," she said during our second coffee date. "How so?" "You listen. Like, actually listen. You're not just waiting for your turn to talk." That's a low bar. You'd be surprised how many men can't clear it. We dated casually for about 2 months. It didn't develop into anything serious. Our life goals were too different. But it was healthy, respectful, and reminded me what normal relationships felt like. When we mutually decided to end things, we did so over lunch, wished each other well, and parted as friends. "You're going to make someone very happy," she said, giving me a hug goodbye. "Someone who actually deserves you." 6 weeks after leaving, I was at a bar with Evan and some friends when my phone buzzed. Amanda's name lit up the tone screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Lucas." Her voice cracked. "I made a mistake." "Okay." "That's it? Just okay?" "What do you want me to say, Amanda?" That we can try again." I was stupid. He's not what I thought he was." "What happened?" "He's been seeing someone else, someone from another department. Apparently they've been together for months. He was just, I don't know. I thought we had something. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. I'm sorry that happened to you. Can we meet? Just to talk? To what end?" "Lucas, I love you. I didn't realize what I had until he picked someone else. I get it." I kept my voice level. "But Amanda, I'm not the backup plan. I'm not the safe choice you run back to when the exciting option doesn't work out." "It's not like that." "It's exactly like that. You wanted to see if the grass was greener. You made me apologize to the guy you had feelings for. Your promotion party. In front of everyone." Silence on the other end. "I've moved on," I continued. "I'm doing really well, actually. Better than I was. And I need you to do me a favor and not contact me anymore. I mean that respectfully, but I mean it." "You don't mean that." "I do. Take care of yourself, Amanda. I hope you find what you're looking for. But it's not me." I hung up. My hands were shaking slightly. Evan put a hand on my shoulder. "Clean break?" "Clean break." 3 months later, I was at a networking event when I ran into one of Amanda's co-workers from the promotion party, a woman named Patricia, who worked in Amanda's department. "Lucas, I almost didn't recognize you. You look great." "Thanks. How are things at the company?" Patricia's expression shifted, became uncomfortable. "Complicated. Amanda's having a rough time, actually." "Oh?" The whole Derek thing really blew up in her face. Turns out he was playing like 3 different women in the office, including her. When it all came out, it got messy. HR got involved. Amanda wasn't disciplined or anything, but the gossip has been brutal. I felt a twinge of sympathy, but not enough to change anything. That's unfortunate. She asks about you sometimes. I think she really regrets how things ended. I'm sure she does, but regret doesn't change what happened. Patricia nodded. For what it's worth, I thought you handled that whole promotion party situation with a lot of class. Most guys would have made a scene. You just left. It was dignified. Thanks. I didn't see the point in making it dramatic. Well, it made an impression. Half the office was talking about it for weeks. Some of the women were saying they wished their boyfriends had that kind of backbone. I smiled, despite myself. I was just doing what felt right. It was the right call. Amanda's realized that now, but it's too late. We chatted a bit more about business, exchanged cards, and parted ways. Rishon walked to my car. I thought about Amanda dealing with the fallout of her choices. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt neutral. Her consequences were her own. I had my own life to build. 6 months passed. My business had grown to the point where I needed to rent an actual office space. I hired 2 full-time employees and a project manager. The consultancy I'd run from my laptop was becoming something real, something substantial. The office space we found was perfect. Exposed brick, high ceilings, natural light flooding through massive windows. Rebecca helped me design the layout, creating collaborative workspaces and private areas for focused work. We hung my business philosophy on the wall in large letters. Know your worth. Deliver excellence. Never settle. My employees, Rebecca, Tom, a brilliant copywriter, and Priya, a data analyst with scary good instincts, became more than staff. They became a team, people who shared my vision of building something meaningful without compromising our values. You know what I appreciate about working here? Tom said during our first team lunch in the new office. You don't play games. You tell us what you need, you respect our expertise, and you pay us well. It's shockingly simple. That's how it should be, I said. Yeah, but it's usually not, Priya added. Most places there's all this political maneuvering and ego management. You just focus on the work. I spent too long in a situation where I had to manage someone else's ego. Never again. They didn't know the full story of Amanda, but they understood the principle. Around this time, I started seeing someone. Natalie, a graphic designer I'd met through a client referral. She was funny, creative, and refreshingly direct. When she liked something, she said so. When something bothered her, she addressed it immediately. No games, no triangulation with other men, just honest communication. You're different from the guys I usually date, she said, one evening over dinner at a small Italian place she'd discovered. How so? You're present. Like, you're actually here, paying attention. Most guys I've dated are always looking over my shoulder, wondering if something better might walk by. I spent 2 years with someone who made me feel like I wasn't enough. I don't want to make anyone feel that way. She reached across the table, squeezed my hand. Well, you're definitely enough. It wasn't love yet, but it was healthy. That mattered more than I'd realized. Natalie and I fell into an easy rhythm. She'd come by the office sometimes, bringing coffee and offering design feedback on client projects. My team loved her. She had this way of cutting through bullshit and seeing the core of what a design needed to communicate. You two are sickeningly functional, Rebecca observed one day after Natalie had left. Like actual adults in an actual adult relationship. Is that so rare? In my experience, extremely. Confrontation. I'd been half expecting came 9 months after I'd walked out of that hotel conference room. I was at a networking event downtown, talking to a potential client about their digital strategy, when I saw Amanda across the room. She looked different. Thinner, more drawn. Her hair was shorter, styled in a sharp bob that seemed designed to project confidence, but somehow emphasized her exhaustion instead. She was talking to a small group, but her eyes kept scanning the room. They landed on me. I gave a small nod of acknowledgement and returned to my conversation. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her excuse herself from her group and start walking toward me. I wrapped up my conversation quickly, got the client's card, and turned to face her. "Lucas, hi. Amanda, how are you?" "I'm good. Really good, actually. I heard about your company. Sounds like things are going well." "They are. Congratulations on your promotion, by the way. I don't think I said that properly. Before." A flicker of pain crossed her face. "Thanks. Listen, I know you said you didn't want to talk, but I've been in therapy and I've realized some things." "Amanda." I kept my voice gentle but firm. "I'm glad you're working on yourself. Truly. But whatever closure you're looking for, I can't give it to you. I just want to apologize for how I treated you, for the Derek thing. I was so caught up in the attention that I didn't see what I was throwing away. I appreciate the apology. And I was hoping, no." I shook my head. "Whatever you're hoping, the answer is no. I'm with someone now. Someone who makes me feel valued. And even if I wasn't, we're not going back to what we had." "Is it serious? With this new person?" "That's not really your business anymore." She flinched. "Right. Of course, I see you sometimes on LinkedIn at events like this. You look happy. Happier than you were with me." "I am happy. I hope you find that too." "With someone else, you mean?" "With yourself first. Then maybe with someone else." She nodded slowly, tears forming. "I really did love you, you know. I just didn't know how to appreciate it." "I believe you. But love isn't enough when respect isn't there. You asked me to make myself smaller for someone else's comfort. That's not love. That's convenience. I know that now. Then you've learned something valuable. Use it better next time." I saw Natalie approaching from across the room, 2 glasses of wine in her hands. She was smiling, completely at ease, wearing a green dress that made her eyes look luminous. When she reached us, she handed me a glass and looked at Amanda with friendly curiosity. "Hi, I'm Natalie." "Amanda, I used to date Lucas." "Oh, nice to meet you." Natalie's tone was genuinely warm, no trace of jealousy or insecurity. She turned to me. "The guy from TechStart wants to set up a meeting next week. I got his contact info." "Perfect. Thanks, Nat." Amanda watched this exchange, something crumbling behind her eyes. Here was evidence of what we'd never had. Easy partnership, mutual support, genuine teamwork. The way Natalie stood beside me, confident in her place, not competing for attention or validation. "I should go," Amanda said quietly. "It was good to see you, Lucas. Both of you." She walked away, her shoulders slightly hunched. Natalie watched her go, then looked at me. "You okay?" Yeah, I'm good." She seems sad." "She is. But it's not my job to fix that anymore." Natalie clinked her glass against mine. "To healthy boundaries." I smiled. To healthy boundaries. Later that night, back at my apartment, Natalie brought it up again. That must have been strange seeing her. It was, but mostly it just confirmed I made the right choice. No regrets. None. You know what's weird? I don't even feel angry anymore. I'm just grateful, in a way. She showed me exactly what I didn't want in a relationship. Made it easier to recognize what I did want when I found it. Natalie curled into my side on the couch. "And what's that?" Someone who doesn't make me feel like I'm in competition for their attention. Someone who shows up. Someone who's on my team. Well, for the record, I'm definitely on your team. I know. That's why this works. A year after I'd walked out of that promotion party, I threw an event of my own. A launch party for the expanded version of my consultancy. We'd landed a major contract with a national retailer, hired 10 more people, and moved into a space 3 times the size of our first office. The venue was packed. Clients, employees, friends, family. Evan gave a speech about how proud he was, making jokes about how I used to work in pajamas from his spare bedroom. My employees presented me with a custom neon sign reading, "Worth more than free," an inside joke about my old habit of undercharging. Natalie was by my side the whole night, charming clients and making everyone feel welcome. She'd helped plan the event, designed the invitations, and insisted on hiring a good photographer to document everything. "You've earned this," she'd said when I protested the expense. "Stop being modest and celebrate your success." At one point during the evening, she pulled me aside, her expression suddenly serious. "Your ex is here." I looked where she was indicating. Amanda stood near the entrance, half hidden behind a column. She wasn't on the guest list. "Want me to have her escorted out?" Natalie asked. "No. Let her stay if she wants." "You sure?" "I'm sure. She can't hurt me anymore." I watched Amanda throughout the night. She didn't approach me, didn't try to talk to anyone. She just stood there, witnessing what I'd built in the time since I'd left her. The success. The happiness. The team of people who respected me. The woman who stood beside me as an equal partner. My father found me during a quiet moment, handed me a whiskey. "I saw your ex-girlfriend lurking by the entrance. That took some nerve." "Yeah. You handling it okay?" "I am. It's strange. I don't feel anything toward her. Not anger, not satisfaction that she's watching. Just nothing." "That's called moving on." He clinked his glass against mine. "I'm proud of you, son. Not just for the business, but for knowing when to walk away from something that wasn't serving you. That's a harder skill than most people realize. You taught me that. You and Mom. You showed me what respect looks like. We tried, but you had to be willing to demand it for yourself. Not everyone does." Near the end of the evening, I saw Amanda leave. She looked back once, caught my eye. I raised my glass slightly in acknowledgement. She nodded and walked out into the night. "That was gracious of you," Natalie said, having witnessed the exchange. "Was it? I think it was just neutral. She doesn't matter enough to be cruel to." "That's almost worse." "Maybe. But it's honest." Natalie and I dated for 18 months total. It was good, healthy, communicative, supportive. But eventually, we both recognized we wanted different things long-term. She wanted to travel, to be untethered, to build her design career internationally. I wanted to put down roots, to grow my business locally, to build something stable. We ended it over dinner at that same Italian place where she'd once told me I was different. "This is probably the healthiest breakup I've ever had," she said, smiling through tears. "Same. I'm going to miss you. I'll miss you too. But I think we're both doing the right thing. I know we are." We hugged goodbye in the parking lot, and I watched her drive away, feeling sad, but not devastated. Sometimes relationships end not because someone did something wrong, but because two people's paths diverge. That was okay. 3 months later, I met Sophie at a friend's wedding. She was an architect, sharp-witted and challenging in the best way. She called me on my bullshit, pushed me to think differently, and had a zero-tolerance policy for emotional games. Our first conversation was about sustainable building materials and somehow morphed into a debate about whether ambition and contentment could coexist. She argued they couldn't. I argued they had to. "You're wrong," she said, but she was smiling. "I'm really not." "Prove it." "Buy me coffee and I will." That coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into a weekend hike. The weekend hike turned into 6 months of the most intellectually stimulating, emotionally honest relationship I'd ever had. "I heard about the girlfriend who asked you to apologize to her office crush," Sophie said one night, about 4 months in. "Where'd you hear that?" "Evan told me when we first started dating. Said it was important I know you had standards." "And what did you think?" "I thought, good, so does he. Made me like you more." "I'm glad I waited. I'm glad it's you." "Me, too. Though I have to admit, part of me wishes I could have seen you walk out of that party. Must have been quite a moment." "It was quiet, actually. No drama. Just a decision." Those are the best kind. The ones where you know you're right, so you don't need to explain or justify. You just act. Exactly. I saw Amanda one final time, about 5 years after I'd walked away. I was having lunch with a client at a downtown restaurant when she walked in with a man I didn't recognize. They were seated across the room. She looked older, more settled. Not unhappy, exactly, but not radiant either. The sharp edges I remembered had softened into something that looked like resignation. She saw me, gave a small wave. I nodded back. That was it. No conversation needed. No catching up required. My client noticed the exchange. "Old friend?" "Old something," I said. "Not important." And it wasn't. That version of my life, the one where I made myself smaller, where I apologized for existing in someone else's space, where I accepted being treated as an option, felt like it belonged to a different person entirely. By then, Sophie and I were engaged. We'd bought a house together, a beautiful old Victorian that needed work, but had good bones. She was designing the renovation while I continued growing the business. We'd found a rhythm that worked. Challenging each other, supporting each other, building something together without either of us having to diminish ourselves. "You know what I love about our story?" Sophie said one evening, as we sat on the porch of our construction zone house, drinking wine out of plastic cups because all our real glasses were packed. "What's that?" "That your last relationship didn't destroy you. It just cleared space for something better. You didn't become bitter or cynical. You just became more sure of what you wanted." I had good examples. My parents, Evan, people who showed me what healthy relationships look like. And you were brave, enough to want that for yourself. To not settle. I thought about that moment in the hotel conference room. Amanda's hand on Derek's arm. Her expectation that I would diminish myself. The clarity I'd felt when I'd set down that champagne glass and decided to leave. "It wasn't bravery," I said. "It was just math. Staying would have cost more than leaving." "That's still brave. A lot of people do that math and stay anyway." Maybe she was right. Maybe walking away had been brave. But it hadn't felt brave at the time. It had just felt necessary. 2 years later, Sophie and I got married in the backyard of that Victorian house, now fully renovated and beautiful. The ceremony was small, intimate, exactly what we both wanted. During the reception, Evan gave the toast. "I've never seen someone recover from heartbreak so efficiently," he said, grinning at me. "Lucas just decided to be done, and he was done. No looking back, no what-ifs, just forward motion. It was actually kind of inspiring. Made me realize I'd been hanging on to my own dead relationship for way too long. So in a weird way, watching my little brother walk away from someone who didn't value him gave me the courage to do the same. And now I'm happily married too." He raised his glass to his wife, Michelle, who blew him a kiss. So, thanks, Lucas, for showing all of us what self-respect looks like in action. People laughed and applauded. Sophie squeezed my hand under the table, her eyes bright with happiness. Later, during our first dance, she said, "I'm glad you didn't settle. I'm glad you waited for something real." Me too, though I have to say I wasn't waiting. I was just living. You were a bonus, not a destination. Even better, that means you were already whole when I met you. I was. Took me a while to get there. But yeah, that's the dream, right? Two whole people choosing each other, not two broken people needing each other. That's exactly the dream. Years later, when Sophie and I were unpacking boxes in our new house, a 4-bedroom with a home office for me and a design studio for her, I found myself thinking about that promotion party again. Our daughter, Emma, was asleep upstairs, and the evening light was filtering through windows Sophie had specifically designed to catch the sunset. "You know," Sophie said, carefully arranging books on a shelf, "I was thinking about your ex recently." "Yeah? Why?" "Because I was wondering, if she hadn't asked you to apologize to that Derek guy, would you have stayed? Would you have kept trying to make it work?" I considered this seriously. Honestly, probably not much longer. That was just the most obvious moment, the one that made everything clear. But I think I would have eventually left anyway. The relationship was already dying. She just gave me permission to acknowledge it. Do you think she ever understood what she did wrong? Maybe. Patricia, one of her co-workers, told me Amanda had a rough time after everything blew up. Derek turned out to be playing multiple women in the office. The gossip apparently got brutal, so she faced consequences, at least socially. "Good," Sophie said simply. "She should have. Actions have consequences." They do. But you know what? I'm glad it happened the way it did. If it had been messier, if there had been more drama, I might have gotten stuck in bitterness. The clean break let me move forward without baggage. Sophie crossed the room, wrapped her arms around me. "Your daughter is going to grow up with a really good example of what self-respect looks like. That's the goal. I want her to know that you don't stay in situations that diminish you. You don't apologize for taking up space. You don't make yourself small for someone else's comfort. You're going to be a great dad. We're going to be great parents," I corrected. Upstairs, Emma started to cry. The soft, just waking up sound that meant she wanted attention but wasn't truly upset. Sophie kissed my cheek. "Your turn." I climbed the stairs to the nursery, lifted my daughter from her crib. She stopped crying immediately, her small hand grabbing onto my shirt. Through the window, I could see the yard where she'd learned to walk, the street where she'd ride her first bike, the neighborhood where she'd grow up. And I thought about the man I wanted to be for her, the example I wanted to set. Someone who knew his worth. Someone who walked away from situations that diminished him. Someone who chose self-respect over false hope. Someone who, when asked to apologize for taking up space, apologized to himself instead and built a better life. That's what I'd want for my daughter. And that's what I'd become for myself. The promotion party had been the ending of one story and the beginning of another. The story where I stopped accepting scraps and started demanding respect. Where I stopped being an option and became my own priority. 5 years later, holding my daughter in the home I shared with a woman who chose me every day, I realized something important. Walking away from Amanda wasn't the moment my life got better. It was the moment I decided I deserved better. Everything that came after, the business success, the healthy relationships, the genuine happiness, the family I was building, was just the natural consequence of that one clear decision. I'd apologized to myself. And then I'd built a life worth staying for. Emma grabbed at my face with her tiny hands, giggling. I kissed her forehead and looked out at the life I'd created. A life built on the foundation of self-respect, where I didn't have to compete for basic dignity, where my worth wasn't up for debate. Amanda had done me a favor that night, though she'd never intended to. She'd shown me exactly what I wouldn't tolerate. And in walking away from that, I'd walked toward everything I'd ever wanted. That was the real lesson. Sometimes the best thing someone can do for you is show you clearly that they're not right for you. And the best thing you can do for yourself is believe them the first time they show you who they are. I'd believed. I'd walked away, and I'd never looked back.